Hi students, welcome to the first lesson. In this video, I will cover how to approach drawing and also some fundamental concepts and principles that include line, shape, form, structure, and space. Drawing is the act of using tools to create marks on a two-dimensional surface. Observational drawing seeks to represent three-dimensional space or forms on a flat surface. So in this class, we will focus on observational drawing. On the other extreme, we have something called non-objective drawing or abstract drawing. This kind of drawing does not seek to represent anything in the real world. It is self-referential in that it refers exclusively to the elements of art, such as line, shape, color, etc. So how do we approach drawing? The one idea that you will hear me emphasize in this course is that you should work from general information to more specific information. So what does this mean? In the beginning, you should try to get the big picture. Try to break the forms down into simple shapes. As you draw, you can be asking questions. How do the different parts of a form relate to one another? How do they connect? What is the spacing between the different parts in a form? When I have observed beginning drawing students, they always tend to do the same thing. They always produce contoured line drawings. Although this is a valid exercise, it's not how I recommend that we learn how to draw. There is a much more simple and efficient method. So when I have observed beginning drawing students, what they'll do is that they will look at a form, in this case it's a hand, and they'll pick a location to start, and they'll start describing the outline of the form. In other words, they look at the direction of the outer contour. Again, while this is a valid exercise, it's not how I recommend that we start learning how to draw. And the reason is because you're looking at things in isolation. You're looking at things piece by piece, and we don't really get a big picture. We don't really see the full form. So it's much more effective to break things down into shapes. Hypothetically, if we were going to draw this vase, you could describe the bottom portion with a circle, and you could describe this top funnel-like portion with an inverted triangle. If you learn how to do this, it becomes possible to draw more complex forms. Notice how the artist is breaking down this hand into simple shapes such as ovals and triangles. In this second square, you can see how the artist is including some guidelines to help him or her understand angles and spacing and the width of the different fingers. Here in the final stage, the artist can eliminate any lines that he or she no longer needs and can further define the lines that he or she does want to keep. Here is a different picture showing a similar development, and we can see how the artist is breaking down this form into simple shapes in the initial stages before incorporating more details. What is line? Line is one of the most fundamental principles of design. A line is a mark in motion. Lines can change direction. They can be horizontal, vertical, diagonal, or curved. The texture of a line can change as well. It can be rough or smooth. Lines can be thick or thin. So one of our first assignments will be to produce a contour line drawing. A contour line drawing is a drawing that focuses on the outer edges of an object, otherwise known as the outlines. We will approach it the way I have mentioned by breaking things down into simple shapes first. Even with a study like this, which seems pretty straightforward, it is necessary to have some knowledge about shapes and forms and perspective. All of these concepts will help produce a strong drawing. Here is a different example of a contour line drawing. So for our first assignment, we will set up a group of objects, and then we will draw these as accurately as possible. The nice thing about drawing is that it's a very forgiving process. You can make as many edits as you need, you can erase as much as you need before you produce your final picture. So what is shape? Shapes are flat or two-dimensional lines that enclose space. They can be geometric, that is, mathematically quantifiable, or they can be organic, that is, more complex, imperfect, natural, or related to freeform. So geometric shapes in particular are very helpful when we draw because they are well balanced. So this includes things like triangles, circles, rectangles, and squares. So while shapes are flat, forms, of course, are dimensional. Planes are angular surfaces that shift across a form. Sometimes artists will exaggerate a form. They will include all of the different planes in order to further understand its structure. Think about a foot, right? A foot has a top side and then it has two other planes on the side. If you try to break down a form into different planes, you'll have a better idea about how it exists in space. Now let's talk about space. When we are referring to two-dimensional space, we are talking about the empty area between things. Your actual subject, what you are drawing, is considered positive space, and anything surrounding your subject is considered negative space. This is also known as the figure-ground relationship. So why is this helpful? When you draw, you should not only look at the shapes that compose your subject, you should also be looking at the shapes that make up the empty areas between your subjects. So note this rectangular shape between the scissors and the keys. Also, notice this kind of trapezoid shape between the keys here. If you draw those empty areas accurately, this will also help you produce a more accurate drawing.